Hey everyone, it's Tolu Foye, and today's Kugali Spotlight is with Mr. Bill Masuku.
Dun, dun, dun. Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in. Tolu, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, you being the lively, hilarious person that you are. So, Bill is the creator, writer, artist, author. Which other, how else can I hype you?
I'm also
Progenitor
the postman, the secretary, the
of
I do everything and it's so
Enigma
tiring by
Comics,
now.
and Enigma Comics, creator of Razorman, and well, Razorman was already in the first volume of the Kugali anthology. So if you already bought the Kugali anthology, volume one, you already read the first 5 issues of Razorman. You already know what it's about. Razorman will be in the second volume of the Kugali anthology coming out this November. So you get to continue the story right from where you stopped. But if you didn't read the first volume at all, like you don't, or you read only the Raki and you didn't read the regular, you don't even know what Razorman is about. Let's hear it from the horse's mouth. Bill, what is Razorman?
Straight from the horse's mouth. Razorman is an urban fantasy superhero manga book. I really didn't want to be restricted by convention. Although when you do start the story, it is very stereotypical of a vigilante superhero story. Father passes away, takes up a superhero mantle, etc. etc. But the further you go into it, the weirder it gets, and I want to teeter the line between Western comic book storytelling and writing a manga, and I think I'm on the right track. I'm having fun drawing it, and I've gotten great feedback so far. So I'm happy with people being happy, I guess.
Okay, so you just admitted you're heavily influenced by both Western comic books and by manga.
Yeah. It's I first watched my first anime in the year 2000. So I'm old af. And at the time I didn't know it was anime. It was just blowing me away, and I couldn't understand why. It was only like
Which
years
one was
later
it?
where I was like, it was Rurouni Kenshin, also known as Samurai X.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah. I watched that. I was watching that in the late 90s. So,
yeah, like
in English,
late
right?
90s, early 2000s. It was such a stark departure from everything that was on TV at the time. Like the Swatcast, the Johnny Quests, and all that jazz. And it had this character-based storytelling, and it wasn't episodic in the way that like with Dexter's Lab or something like that. Like one episode has nothing to do with the next, but this had like frequency of storytelling, which like that alone, like it caught my mind more than my eye, and I've been hooked ever since, and
Right.
I'm
So,
trapped.
just curious, did you watch Samurai X in English back then?
Yes, I did, because it was on TV, and
Yeah, I think
I
that's
don't
what
know
happened to us
why
when,
people.
when I was in primary school. I watched Samurai X, Voltron, G-Force, or
Yeah.
also known as Battle of the Planets. I watched those in English. Those were my first anime. But then Ziki introduced me to Dragon Ball Z in 2001, I think, or 2000. Ziki introduced me to Dragon Ball Z. Someone else introduced me to Digimon, and then from there, yeah, eventually we started watching anime in actual Japanese. But let me see. Some of the anime influences I noticed in Razorman is how like they have sensory abilities. So, for example, how in the first volume, a character thought someone else was dead, and then when the other person managed to survive the near death experience, and like had this resolve to do something about what had happened. The killing intent was so strong, someone else felt it from somewhere else and it's like, what, he's alive? That is so anime. That is so anime. How someone else would just be, they'll be like, they might be on another planet and they'll just sense something and they're like, oh my. That is so anime. So, but then I like how the story of Razorman, while it has quite a few anime influences, very obviously, it also seems not just vigilante superhero inspired, but even detective fiction. So both sides of the conflict, both the good guys and the bad guys, seem to have competent detectives on their side, psychoanalyzing the situation and figuring out what the opposition is doing. I think that's really nice.
It's like whenever I pick up a new show, there's always this weird incompetence on on the sides of whether it's the good guys or the bad guys, and it just never made sense to me, because you can't have an evil organization with just like incompetent goons. It just, like, as funny as it is, like storytelling wise, it's like, oh, I'm the only competent one here, I should do it myself, like Thanos. Like, that's like, and if it's long running storytelling, it only makes sense that before your first issue, things were going on, right? Like,
Yeah.
the world was alive before your main character had the call to action. So if you're gonna have an evil organization, it should be an organization in terms of structural drive towards a goal. And it only made sense to me to have that sort of back and forth. Even though they, like, the characters that are psychoanalyzing each other, even Rumbi, the former detective, working on the side, like, they never meet, but like they're all within the reach of their information. Like, Razorman is like going through the 13's files. She is going through police records, but they're equally competent at finding stuff. Google isn't that hard to use.
Google isn't that hard to use. I guess that would be the name of this episode of Kugali Spotlight. So, how long have you been writing? When did you start writing Razorman?
It's actually a funny little story. And usually I don't have time to tell it, but here we are. So I came back from uni at the start of 2016, and I had been writing a couple of characters up until then. So I was in the middle of revamping Captain South Africa. There's a banner in the back, you can see that swag. And I was also writing this series called Silver Diamond. And the thing was, I wanted Silver Diamond to remain a web series, and I wasn't yet ready to publish the new Captain South Africa. And the guys who organized the conventions here in Zim, Comics Post, they put out a little notice like, hey, if you have stuff that you want to sell at our event, just register and then come through. Literally, this was 2 weeks. They said 2 weeks from now the event is on. So I had like the rough musings of a character called Razorman, the roughest of musings, and within that 2 weeks, I had to storyboard like the majority of the arcs, so I know like what I'm planning to write. Then I had to script the first issue, pencil, ink, go to the printers, organize banners and business cards, get ready for the Saturday event. So within that first 2 weeks, I have never been so stressed in my life. But giving birth to a character has never felt as good as Razorman, because there was an urgency to putting it out. And it's like, usually when it's like your own title, like a self-published in Africa, you can really go at your own pace. Like, there's this thing where like artists and creatives really like rehash and re-edit a lot of their work, and I just didn't have that luxury / time. Especially, I didn't want to go to this event and just have nothing on my table, or go to this event as a spectator. This was my shot. So I had to like shoot my shot, and I never looked back. It was so great.
Right. So the first issue of Razorman was done in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you did it in black and white. It was pretty manga style. And
Yeah.
with just the plain black and white, just the line work, how many issues in are you now? How many have you drawn?
I have done 10 issues, but there's a little there's another little funny story.
Okay.
So in the first issue of Razorman, I talk about the Africa dropping its trade borders and being unified, and that happened recently in the news. I think it was 2 or 3 months ago. Um, and there's a lot of these things in Razorman where I'm writing them close to an African political climate that it ends up mirroring events that actually come to happen. I'm not psychic. Let's just get that out the way.
Yep, Bill is not psychic.
And yeah, let's hashtag Bill is not psychic, because witchcraft is bad. And two of the issues actually are very closely political. Oh, there's a bird in my front yard. They're not criticizing anyone or anything. It's just like the narrative of the story shifts a bit, so you get a better idea of what's going on in the world. Because I needed to like show that Razorman is not the only character in this series, and because of what happened in November in Zimbabwe, I had to retract, just stop publishing those 2 issues. So there are 8 issues available, but I have drawn 10. I'm redrawing the 2 issues for the Kugali magazine so that I don't go and get into any trouble. I don't want any trouble. Hashtag Bill is not psychic.
Right. So you're actually redrawing issues 9 and 10 for the Kugali anthology.
Redrawing 7 and 8. 9 and 10 are hundreds.
Oh, okay. Cool. Very interesting. So is it that you want to put stuff in or you want to take stuff out because of what happened in Zim?
I need to take stuff out, but because of page limits and congruency, I also need to put some pages in and then like reword something so that it fits into the my allotted space for
Wow,
the magazine.
that is actually hilarious. I mean, you are a prophet. So okay, great. So well, we want to keep this short and sweet. If you haven't read Razorman, personally, I would say like it's a good read because it has a complex. The characters are complex. The story is Bill takes it seriously. Like it's not your basic good versus evil. Let's go. So yeah, you guys should just check it out in the Kugali anthology. And oh yes, I've always been wanting to ask this question. So
Yes.
we got a colorist, Christina Alvarez, to color Razorman Volume 1 when we wanted to publish it in the Kugali anthology. And I remember when she was sending you the colored files, you saw a page and you were like, whoa, how are you getting me hyped up over my own comic? But I hadn't read Razorman by then, so now that I've read the first volume, I can ask, which page was it? Without
It was.
is there a way you can describe what page it was without spoiling it for those who have not read it? But those who have read
Yes.
it will be able to tell which page you're talking about.
I can.
Okay.
So it's the appearance of the first antagonist.
Ah.
The dark tones overlaid with the blue highlights. It was just like I I don't have no words. I have no words. It was just
You know,
yo.
I suspected it was either going to be that page or the page of message delivered. I suspected it was going to be one of those two pages because of what she did with the colors there. Like, I can imagine before in your head, what were the colors like before you saw that awesomeness?
Like the colors in my head were so basic. Like and like Christina does this thing where and you see it a lot, especially with that first antagonist. She like will do these like flares to give the aura like a flavor, a presence. And I'm
Yeah.
like, my life heart is so basic, and she's just going to town, and I love it. I love her. She's amazing. Oh, Christina.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it turns out in the second volume because, um, for one thing, you said it yourself. Your line art is basic, but your line art has been improving. So by the second volume, the line art is better than the first volume. And then Christina is not going to be doing the coloring for the second volume because she's busy on some other projects. So we are going to have a collaboration between Ijoma Osi, our colorist in Nigeria, and Jason Aslami, our in-house artist at Kugali. So it'll be interesting to see like what they come up with, especially because they are going to look at Christina's coloring for inspiration, so that it doesn't feel too different. But with that being said, I'm looking forward to Razorman Volume 2 because I want to see how far he goes with his Rufemo abilities, and yeah, I want to see how that Detective Rumbi plays into everything else. So, Bill, any final words for the fans?
Final words. If you are a comic book enthusiast who wants to draw, just draw. You can wait until you get better, but that moment may never come. Art is about working towards something, and I'm really glad that I just went with it. And you grow as you go. You can't expect to get better overnight. And just watching people get interested in my work, I'm really inspired to do better, to draw better, to write better. So thank you for tuning into these. Thank you for following Kugali, and don't forget to subscribe.
Nice. It's a wrap, people. So Kugali Anthology Volume 2 coming out late November 2018. Watch this space.